Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to my show. I am really thrilled and excited to introduce my next guest because she does some amazing things, and she's out in the jungle somewhere. What a beautiful background. Let me tell you a little bit about Anna Pashyanti, if I'm pronouncing that right, I hope. She's an international speaker, healer, teacher, and mystic whose path of healing and self-realization has taken her on pilgrimages to over 55 countries, learning ancient and modern spiritual practices. I can't wait to hear about some of those. She's a highly sensitive empath and has spent decades learning how to calm those triggers, reclaim her multidimensional powers, which we are all starting to reclaim, and rise above limitations, which, again, we all need to do. She helps awaken others to their own potential to heal, which we all have, and to expand and transform their lives by reconnecting to Source with a capital S, and return to their true nature of infinite, powerful wisdom. She teaches ways to communicate with your body, which she's going to talk about today, which is really exciting. It sounds very similar to some of the stuff that I do. And it's just amazing to me that, you know, we're so science-based that we've forgotten that everything is energy and spiritual. And when you learn that, and when you reconnect to that and reawaken to that, it's an amazing thing that your body can do. It can tell you all kinds of things. So she's going to talk about that and give us a few little hints as to how to start doing that. Give us some techniques for emotional and physical pain and to return to your true nature, which is, of course, infinite, powerful, wise, and free. And I love this. She calls it rewilding the soul. So welcome, Anna. I'm so glad you're here.
So happy
tell
to
us
be
first
here,
of all.
Royce. It's really inspiring.
Thank you. And we have a little bit of a delay, so there'll be a few pauses here and there just to let everybody know. So first of all, I always love hearing the story. How did you get started doing what you do? Your multidimensional journey, your awakening, how did that start for you?
Well, as with a lot of people, it started with the opposite, which was not being in my power, which was not feeling connected to Source and to my infinite inner wisdom, you know, not being myself, trying to just suffer through life. And really self-sacrifice was something big for me as well. And so I basically went through life self-sacrificing and just kind of trying to get by emotionally. And eventually my life fell apart because I couldn't continue doing that anymore. So at the time I was living in Germany, and I found myself in a trailer with no running water, connected with just an electric cord to my friend's cockroach farm out in the middle of nowhere in the forest. And it was a gigantic cockroach farm, a huge warehouse full. And that was okay, honestly, you know, back to the roots, down to nature, you know, that's fine. But I had nothing to support me. I had no one to support me. My relationships were falling apart. I was trying to hold on to them, even though they weren't right for me. I mean, I was miserable. Actually, they were actually a little bit abusive, right? You know, they're just very, 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 very difficult. And I kept trying to make it through. Completely forgot myself. And it was then that I realized I have absolutely nothing. I'm starting from ground zero. I left the country. I left everything. I went back to my parents and sat at the kitchen table, and I asked myself, for the first time in my life, what do I really want? That was the first time I asked myself that. I had never allowed myself to ask that before. And the answers came like intuition does. It came with it came instantly in the air. Like I could literally feel sparkles around me, and I had no idea,
Wow.
you know, what that was. But I knew I wanted two things. One, I wanted to move to Istanbul. Two, I wanted to learn about consciousness.
Why
Because I
Istanbul?
had just heard a little
Yes.
English here and there. Mm-hmm.
Why
Istanbul? Because Istanbul has a magic to it.
Huh.
It has a kind of, I saw on a road trip one time I drove through there with some friends, and we drove through Istanbul, and it just had like a magic. It was kind of in its own little magic cloud as we were driving by, you know, through the country into Europe, and I just could not, for the life of me, figure out why. But I wanted to go there because it just had a magical pull to me. It was just my intuition. And I was studying, in my own research, I was also studying sort of natural health, which led on to quantum physics, which led to the beginnings of consciousness. So it's a really roundabout way of saying I started from ground zero, not knowing what I had left to hang on to. I literally had no friends or relationships anymore except for my parents and my sisters. And I decided I wanted to go there. So what did I do? I went there with my little laptop, my remote job, and I had mind-blowing meditation experiences that I couldn't explain for the first time in my life. And that led me to ask the questions, which led me to where I am now, you know, more than a decade later, 15 years later. So that's how it started. It started by finally asking myself what I really wanted inside. And that took me, you know, 30 some years.
Wow. And so when you say self-sacrifice, what exactly do you mean that you were doing a lot of self-sacrifice?
Yeah. Well, I happen to be highly sensitive and also an empath, and those are two different things. And so I was always concerned about how other people were feeling. And so I grew up with a lot of conflict in my family. And so the only thing I wanted to do was avoid conflict, and I wanted to make people feel better. I wanted them to stop hurting, because that was just what needed to be done. If someone was hurting, someone was feeling bad, that was my job, I thought, to make them feel better. And so that's how it started. And it led further on into not speaking up when I wasn't treated right, for example. It led to not following my heart's desires, you know, as I just explained. It even led further on to allowing people to just take until I actually almost lost my life.
Wow.
I ended up with some narcissistic people. One of them actually had me held hostage in his apartment, literally, for a few weeks, and I finally escaped. That's another story, but I mean, I barely escaped, and I finally had to learn the lesson to not self-sacrifice, to have those healthy boundaries, to be compassionate and loving, but not to just let myself be walked over because someone else needs or wants something from me. So it was a very long and hard lesson to learn, because I refused to learn it so many times. In the past, people would kind of like be very aggressive and attacking towards me, especially after I helped them, you know, and I couldn't understand why my self-sacrificing wasn't making them feel better and wasn't solving the problem. They would literally not only want more, but they would actually kind of attack me for doing so. It's kind of a weird thing. But basically, I had a choice many times. Am I going to close my heart off and be a very cold, aggressive person, to kind of protect myself and fit in with this whatever cold society that I apparently was attracting? Or was I going to let my heart stay open and just be a bleeding heart and just suffering all the time? Those are the only two options I thought I had. I didn't realize there was a middle way, which was to have an open and compassionate heart. Why is something I refused to learn for way too long.
Wow. So then you have a PhD next to your name. What is the PhD in?
So that is in German philosophy and literature.
Wow.
And so very, very academic, very kind of dry stuff. And I ended up there because I wasn't truly listening to my heart. I didn't know how to follow my heart. And so I said, well, I'm just kind of good in academics. I'll just keep going. I like foreign languages. I'll just keep going. I like to read. I wasn't following my dream yet. So yeah, I have the qualifications, and I know how to research. I know how to write books. That's great. It'll help me, in the future. But it was all part of my collapse, because that was before my collapse. That was before my spiritual turn. Because now I wouldn't say that it was necessary to go through all of those years of school, just because you don't know what else to do.
Right.
So yeah, always you got to listen to your heart, and that's honestly, it took me way too long.
Well, whatever it takes, right? So there you are, you're in Istanbul, you're having these amazing meditations. What then? How did that become what you do now? Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so I just had I heard some Greek chanting music, and it was some Greek mystical chanting someone was playing, and they kind of helped me to put me into a meditation, because I didn't really know even how to do that. And what happened was, can't be explained really, but basically I made the intention I wanted to expand my consciousness. What else was there? But that was pretty good. It was a good intention, and so it just blew me up. I went into the golden grid of consciousness, which now I teach as a way to help people connect with the divine and with other people, even on an energetic level.
What is that? Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so that another word for that is Indra's net. And so a lot of people teach that sort of as a kind of a grid, an energetic grid, sort of perpendicular lines and all of. And that's not how I experienced it at all. It was more like a lot of curving golden threads moving through everything, just moving golden light through everything. And in my first experiences in Istanbul, I know now that it was really clearing me out. It was really clearing out a lot of the density and the trauma that was weighing me down, enough for me to be able to make this turn into the new phase of my life, where I was obviously on a conscious spiritual path at that point. And so now I love to connect into it, because if anyone is feeling lonely, for example, because this beautiful golden grid, it's basically, when you have just the source that is and the ocean of unrealized possibilities that we cannot describe, it kind of, before it really manifests into the reality that we can see, this is at least my experience of it, before it manifests into the material world that we can see and into other things and objects and beings, it flows in this sort of grid or network pattern. It's like if source is the first dimension, we could say Indra's net, or this golden network, is like the second dimension, and then we have the third dimension, which is material reality. And so with the golden grid, with this beautiful Indra's net, I can connect, for example, to people's hearts all around the planet, all throughout the universe, the beautiful, pure heart of source that is in every person and every being, before all of their sort of identity, and it's before that. And so I love to bring people into this state where you can really feel the golden grid in your heart and connecting you to everyone, because you can feel, at that point, you can feel connected to everyone that and everything that exists. You can just kind of feel the network, the golden threads that are connecting us together. Because if we are truly one, that is one way to experience it, because it is possible. And I will say, a lot of these things seem impossible, but what I want to make clear is that we do not have to be super enlightened or have scientifically explained it, or be perfect and good and worthy of whatever. We don't need to be any of that and do any of that in order to connect on this level, to connect to source and to connect to other people. And so why I call it rewilding the soul is because we are getting back to our true nature. And that really means all of us can do it, because it's innate. And so that is kind of my mission, is to really empower people to know that they can do this. It's not craziness, it's literally what we're made of.
Right. Yes. It's not craziness, people. Yeah. So you went to 55 countries and you learned ancient and modern spiritual practices. Tell us about some of that.
Yeah. So firstly, I will say that my definition of a pilgrimage, I'm sure, is maybe a little different, but it is when I am traveling anywhere with a sacred intention, with a goal, a sort of either a spiritual goal or a question in my life that I want to figure out, something I want to find out. And as I travel to the different places, bits and pieces of the puzzle come together. And so the way I see things now, it's like a big puzzle. And every place I go to, everything I learn, it all comes in to fill in the puzzle, to fill in the gaps and make those connections, to have a broader understanding of the world, of reality. And so that's how I travel. You don't have to go around the world to have a pilgrimage like that, but it really helps. And why? Because leaving your comfort zone, as they say, leaving your kind of home, brings with it a lot of difficulties, a lot of new things, but especially it will kind of reset your very rigid beliefs. And so for me, I call it deprogramming, actually. I feel like it deprogrammed me by doing this traveling, because everything I thought I knew only changed once I left my country, which was the US. That's where I'm from. Doesn't mean that's necessary for everyone, but that's how it was for me. And so it can help you if you are considering doing this, because it is so much easier to see the world from a new perspective. If I can give you a quick example, when I first moved to Germany, I actually moved there for my PhD research, and all of a sudden I started to have some health issues, just kind of small ones, various things. One of them was like, when my eyes were swelling up and I was like, oh, what's going on? Right. And so I didn't know where the doctor was. I didn't really know how to get into the health system or anything. And so I was like, well, I'm going to have to figure this out by myself. And so I actually started my own research online, and I hadn't done that before. I was just relying on, going to the doctor in the hospital, which is great. They're great for a lot of things. But I started learning things on my own, and then my mind was blown. Firstly, that was the beginning of my deprogramming, because I figured out, I can heal a lot of things in my body. Let's say my kitchen cabinet, just by changing my diet a bit. So I don't need to pop a pill. I don't need to, have this expensive treatment. I'm not saying it's like that always, but there's some things that we can heal on our own. I was like, wow, mind is blown. Okay, it's not what I've been told. It's not what I thought. Okay, and that was the start of my deep society to deprogram. But that all came from traveling, and it came from being in a place that I wasn't familiar with. So that's firstly how I would kind of put that into perspective. Yeah. And then just about sort of the different traditions and the different methodologies. Well, when I started in Istanbul, of course, over there they have the Sufis. And so I was instantly introduced to them when I started on my path. And so that my training did change as I moved through Asia. I kind of had my initial pilgrimage really started from Istanbul and went all the way through Southeast Asia up into Hong Kong. And of course, my training would change as I moved through the various places. And then once I got up into Hong Kong and the people I met there, they taught me more things about, non-dualism and that sort of direction. And so finally, it kind of was the culmination of my initial understanding of reality and of the spiritual path and what our goal is, how we are really here to kind of remember ourselves. Yeah. And each piece of the puzzle came in as I went to the different countries. So that is sort of the overview of my international sort of mystical path, because it's been very, 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 very interesting and very exciting. And it's, everyone has their own path. But for me, finally, once I listened to myself and I listened to that intuition saying I wanted to go to Istanbul and learn about consciousness, that's where it led.
Wow, that's amazing. And so how did that transfer into helping others and teaching others? When did that happen?
Yeah, so people just started asking me for help. They had things they were really struggling with, and they just started asking me for help. I was just helping people that came to me, either with physical issues, with mental issues, anxiety, emotional difficulties, obviously. And honestly, I didn't start professionally until I kind of was forced to. It was because my job, sort of my earlier job, which was in the academic world, it kind of was fading away, and I wasn't interested anymore. It was getting boring, and so it's like, life is showing me. Life has been showing me, time after time, I need to start making this my real profession, because it is what I do. It's what I live and breathe, and so I read the signs. I read the signs from the universe, and yeah.
You froze there. I missed the last thing that you said.
Well, yeah. I just said I finally gave into the messages from the universe that were showing me that I really had to start this full time, because I was very reticent to do so. I was not. I didn't want to do that. I didn't think I had, the answer to everything. I wasn't Mana Maharshi or anything. So I was like, well, I'll stay back and let someone else do it. But life actually kind of forced me into it. So yeah, I'm here now.
Yeah. Life does that, doesn't it? It really seems to. It certainly did for me. So tell us a little bit about how you do work with people. When I introduced you, I said that you help people to get in touch with their cells and their body by talking to your body and listening to your body. Tell us a little bit about your technique and how it works.
Yeah, so it's just so beautiful to do this work, because firstly, I'm empowering people to do these things for themselves. I'm not just going to say, hey, come to me, I'll give you a quick fix, I'll give you an intuitive hit or something, and then come back next week. I teach people how to do these things themselves, because we all can do it. And so basically, we're tapping into source energy. Honestly, that's what we're doing. And so that's how we do anything. That's how we get our intuitive answers. That's how we heal our physical bodies. And that's how we heal emotionally as well. It's all about connecting to our true source field. And I think sometimes we get a little bit distracted from that in all of the various different methods and techniques, which are all beautiful and very helpful. But I'm always very, very, very closely tied to our. So talking about health, for example, because that's how my journey started, actually, being in a foreign country and having health issues, what we do when we have a physical issue is we communicate with our bodies. That's how it has worked for me, and that's how it has worked for other people that I've helped. And so basically, we are having a two-way conversation. We are listening to our body, the messages from our body. So when we have a pain, when we have an illness, something's not working right, it's a message, it's valuable information. Yeah, the body is not against us. It's not trying to make our lives miserable by kind of, hurting or whatever goes wrong in the body. It's always something, right? Our body is actually wanting to serve us. This is a message that something is stored inside. And usually I think of it as the subconscious kind of being stored inside the body, because everything that does happen in the body does also have an emotional, right? I know you're familiar with that. And so basically, if, for example, if I had an issue with, well, let's take a client of mine who came to me for help with his kidney, for example. He actually had kind of a kidney infection. He had kidney pain and everything, but it was after hours, and he didn't want to go into the emergency room. So he's like, well, I'll talk to you, and then I'll go to the doctor tomorrow. I was like, great. So I took him on a journey through his body into his kidney, right? So it's kind of sort of a meditation experience, but it's really not. It's not hard. Like, you don't have to, stop thinking or anything. It's not like that, but it's more intuitive. And so basically, I would in this. There's many methods, but
Yes.
in this method, I
you
would
froze for a while.
Okay. So let's say, I took him into his kidney, and so he actually was envisioning going into his kidney, in his mind, with his third eye, with his imagination. And what we imagine is real. He went into his kidney, took a look around. He was listening. He asked the kidney a question. Kidney, what do you have to tell me? Why do I have this infection? What's going on? I think in that case, it was that, he wasn't drinking enough water. He actually hated water. He only drank sugary drinks. And so his kidney told him that. And this man, this example that I'm telling you about, this man had never done energy work before. He had never meditated. He was not into any of that stuff. He just was kind of desperate, and he knew I, worked on these things. So even for him, it worked that first session we had. And then his pain literally, I'm not joking, it even surprised me, his pain literally stopped before the session was over. He communicated with his kidney. He's like, kidney, I hear you. All right. I promise you I will drink some more water. I'll treat you better, before the session was over. And, obviously he got it checked out the next day. Everything was fine. But the interesting thing was, he wasn't interested in any of that. He had never done energy work or meditation, and wasn't even interested. So truly, if we're just a little bit open to that, that is some of the results that we can get. It's different for everyone, no promises, no guarantees, see your doctor, of course, perfect. But it's a complement, because if we just fix the physical symptom without addressing the energetic or emotional cause, either the symptom can come back, or a different symptom can come back. Sometimes it'll come back worse because we're not listening to the message. Yeah. So it's just feeling empowered that we're not completely dependent on someone or something else to be healthy. It's knowing how the mind-body connection works. And when we address the emotions and the energies and the blockages and the traumas and the confusion, whatever it is, we can actually allow our bodies to heal, because our bodies heal naturally. And that's another part of our rewilding process, is that we're going back to our nature, letting the body heal. The body knows what to do if we give it the right circumstances. So it can be kind of a touchy topic, I know, and I'm just saying it's a compliment to whatever else you want to do. But it's so important, because honestly, it comes back down to our connection with Source. Because of this beautiful Indra's net that is connecting everything, our energies can move through that, and we can travel into our kidney. We can go anywhere. It's all of this is at our disposal. We just have to know that it's possible and kind of allow it to happen naturally. That's I think that's what I most really want to get across.
Yeah. Do you also, and it's almost time to take a break, but do you also talk about, I'm sure you do, but I just want to put it out there. One of the things that I talk about with my students that are working on physical healing is like understanding the bigger lesson from it, so to speak. It's like, I manifested this because I needed to stop and write a book, or something like that. Do you get into where has this led you in your life, or what did this prevent you from doing, or how is this perfect for you in some way?
Yeah. So important, because it all fits into the larger picture. As you mentioned, it's not only a message of maybe how we're treating our bodies, but it is also something that is, of course, tied. We can't get out. Maybe it's because we really just need to be resting. Maybe it's because we need to take a break from whatever we were doing, and we shouldn't be doing that anymore. It is completely tied to the holistic view of life and our the reality we're creating. You're completely right, 100% right. It's all super, super, super important information. I think just the fact that we understandably want to resist all of these messages, as I fully resisted my lessons for a long time. Our resistance to it obviously will cause more suffering. So the only hard part is being brave enough to listen to the message.
Yeah. I'm sure I've told this story on my show before, but I always like to bring it up again because it was so profound for me. I was told spiritually that I needed to write a book about something really interesting spiritually that had happened to me. And I really resisted doing it because I'm not a writer. And what do I have to say? And who would want to read this? And I had all these, negative thoughts going on about it. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, my hands started hurting so terribly that I could barely move. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I heard spiritually in a meditation, it's because you're not writing the book. And I said, but I can't write the book. My hands I can't sit down at my computer and write a book. It's too painful. I'm having this whole conversation with my higher self, right? So finally, the voice convinced me, just go give it a try. Sit down at your computer. So I sat down on my computer, started to write the book. The pain completely went away instantly. So it's that kind of thing too, that when we listen, we can just manifest these miracles. It's pretty amazing. So anyway, we need to take a break. I'm talking to Anna. I can't ever say it.
Pashyanti.
And we will be right back.
Om Times TV. Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I am talking with Anna Pashyanti, and we're talking about self-healing, talking to our bodies. And I just have to ask you, since I've been doing this for decades, I find that people have some pretty strong belief systems about everything, but especially healing. I don't know if it's because we're raised in a society that encourages the medical profession and how they have all the answers and all the cures and, all of that. But there are some very deep beliefs that people have. How do you help people bust through those? Is there something that you say or do that helps people realize, it's just all a belief. I can heal myself?
They usually have to try it themselves. Honestly, if you really want to believe something, you can believe that, and you probably won't even be open to the possibility that something else could work. And so if you really don't believe something's going to work, oftentimes you're going to be right, because your beliefs will actually help that happen. So if you are open, like the man I helped, for example, who wasn't interested in spirituality at all, he was still open enough that could work for him. I don't want to change anyone's beliefs. I don't need to do that. I think everyone's trying to change other people's beliefs, and I really think that's okay. They can just believe what they want to believe. Honestly, I don't want to change someone's belief. I don't want to evangelize. I don't want to break them open if they're not ready. I won't give my answers unless I'm asked the question. If I if I told everyone who was suffering from something that, oh well, you could just do blah blah blah, I don't think it's my place. And because we have all of our own journeys, we're just going to have to let it be what it is. I know that people could suffer less if they were open to their abilities to help themselves heal. And yeah, they would probably suffer less. But is that the journey that they have chosen for themselves? Maybe not. So it is very hard, especially as an empathic person, as so many of us are, to see people suffering and not to be able to just kind of wake them up and tell them what could help them. It's very hard. But that is part of our spiritual path, is accepting everyone's journey being different and accepting the positive and negative in the world, the suffering and the joy. It's quite mystical in that sense, integrating both the light and the dark. But it is part of our path, and I really don't think it's even possible to change someone's belief, even if I tried.
Wow, that's interesting. I kind of beg to disagree, because I think that if you're able to see, maybe even by using yourself as an example, or like the story that I just told about, wow, it was just a belief that I had about not writing my book that was causing my hands to hurt. I think if people can see that, if they can see that, wow, gee, I've always believed that I had to take an aspirin for a headache, and now I'm, realizing maybe I don't, maybe that's just a belief. It's not that you're invalidating them or where they are, but you're kind of presenting something new, a different way of looking at something. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, that's great. If they're willing to see that, that's brilliant, and it's a very, very important service that you can do for them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell us ways that you help people. Give us some examples of how you help people really tune in and get back in touch with their empowered wild self.
Yeah. So I always go back to our direct connection with Source, and it does not mean that we have to be enlightened, all the time and just swimming in the ocean of bliss and not knowing where our bodies are. It's not necessary. But I do always go back to that, and so I like to take people through kind of adventures in meditations and that type of thing. So I actually will tap into the heart space, and that is an inspiration from Ramana Maharshi, a truly enlightened sage in India. And he said that to find the self, the true self, the source, we must be the pearl diver. And the pearl diver tied a stone. Normally, a pearl diver would tie a stone to his waist with a rope to weigh himself down, and he would dive into the ocean to find the pearl, which is in the oyster, in its little shell under the sand at the bottom of the sea. So very, very hidden, very, very deep, very far away. But he put on his stone and he just dove right in. And Ramana Maharshi tells us that we do that by going into the heart space, going all the way down, all the way deep down to find the pearl. And so I like to start there to find the connection with Source that is in the heart space. And actually, I have some meditations on Insight Timer. People are interested; they're free, and some of them will help people do that. Actually, for people who are interested. And so, from there, we can do everything. From there, we can connect into Indra's net, into the golden network of these beautiful threads or cables of energy. Because our heart spaces are connected, for example, with everyone else's heart spaces, and so through the heart we can find everything. And that's also what the Sufis teach, which is how I started my path also, is with the Sufis, who really almost massage the heart, so to speak. And it's really about finding what's in the way between our true divine source and our kind of suffering selves. Yeah. And so what is in the way of that is what we work on. So when I am in a session with someone, usually we're going to be going into the body and we're going to feel the emotions, because the emotions are the signs that something is stored in the subconscious, something is stored in the body that is maybe a trauma or some kind of fear or pain. And so a lot of times we're going to be going into the body and we're going to be feeling kind of what's in the way between us and Source. So that is a lot simpler than it sounds. So it's just about going into the body, putting your awareness into the body and feeling all the sensations that come up, just feeling everything you feel inside the body. That is something that is crucial to do. And a lot of us are afraid to do that because it may be painful. And especially if we have pain in the body, it is hard to kind of put our awareness there. But a lot of times that's only what we need, is to put our awareness there where the body is sending us this message. It's kind of screaming at us, right? Because we didn't listen the last 20 years. So it's going to be screaming at us, going to have pain. But if you really can be brave enough to just sit in the pain, allow it to kind of move through your consciousness, just put your awareness on it without pushing it down, without numbing it out, even that can help to already heal. So that's such a huge part, is allowing that trapped emotion that may be causing a fear or some kind of physical sensation. It could just be, you're feeling angry that day and your chest is feeling really hot and fuzzy and bubbly and whatever it is, it could be a nervous stomach. You go into that sensation and you just sit in it and you allow it to move, allow it to be seen. And in the light of your awareness, already it could start to dissolve on its own. Because what are we doing when we're healing? We're becoming whole. We are integrating those parts of ourselves. That's how I understand it. And so if there's a blockage in the body, if there is pain, it'll be, it could be a fear of something in your life. It could be a fear of scarcity. It could be a fear of conflict. It could be whatever the emotion is, whatever our trauma is. When we feel it, we are allowing from the subconscious to go into the conscious mind. That's how I understand it. Mm-hmm. So basically, when we have a trauma, we are fracturing part of ourselves away because we're not safe to feel that in that moment. And so that sort of hurt part of ourselves gets stored away in the subconscious, usually stored in the body, and then it'll keep coming back, either as a physical symptom or as just a life circumstance. Why does everyone treat me this way, et cetera. And when we go into just a quiet moment, we go into our bodies, we let that pain or that emotion, whatever wants to come up, just allow it to come up to our awareness and move through. It dissolves on its own by joining our conscious mind. I hope that makes sense. It's
yeah.
It's yeah. And so it's our way of becoming whole. It's coming whole within ourselves. Integration is a very mystical path, but it's also very, very, very simple and important in our daily lives. And so it's just feeling our emotions. That is a huge part of the work that I do, because how much of our society is based around us not showing our feelings, not feeling our feelings.
Yeah.
Either taking a pill to numb it, whether it's a depression, you just kind of take a pill for that, right? Or, any kind of the addictions that come up, like, where we try to numb it out, or even if we're just pretending to be fine and say, oh, I'm fine, when we're not, all of that is just in our way of our healing. And so healing is so much easier than we think, because it's really just sitting back, stop fighting, stop resisting, and just allow what's there. It's actually the easiest thing in the world, if you're brave enough.
Yeah. So what about, I talk a lot about past lives and things that we've carried with us from past lives. And a lot of the healing work that I do with people is getting in touch with the origins of some of the stuff that we brought with us physically. So karmic patterns, like, oh, I hit that guy on the head back in, 2nd century BC, and now I have headaches all the time. So do you talk about that sort of thing? Do you go back that far and help people get to the source?
Sure. Yeah. Also, it could be generational. Yeah. It could be a past life. It could be ancestral trauma that's just passed down through the line. Yeah. Yeah. We have ways to heal this, and it's really not, it's not impossible. You do this work. I mean, it's all quite possible. It's all at our fingertips. If we just are open enough to allowing this, maybe first you have to use a little bit of intuition sometimes, but we all have it, and you can all practice that. And so when the feeling comes up, right, that's in the body, a lot of information can come up too. And we may see an image of a past life. Yeah. We may see an image of our childhood. We may see an image actually of something that's been passed down our generational line. And all of these things can be healed. I think whatever is coming into our awareness is exactly what needs to be looked at and healed at that moment. So we're never going to be overwhelmed with too much information. Just what we're ready to see, will come up for us to be healing.
Yeah. So you've mentioned highly sensitive people and empaths. Talk a little bit about that, because I know that a lot of people that are drawn to this work or to doing this work definitely have both of those qualities. How does that play into it? How have you dealt with that in terms of what you do with people? Uh-oh, I think you're frozen. I think she's frozen. Wow, we almost made it for an hour without her freezing too terribly, but doesn't look good. Oh, now we lost her. Okay, maybe she'll come back, and maybe I'll have to answer that question myself. I find that being sensitive is probably one of the most important qualities that anyone has. And if anybody says, oh, you're too sensitive, which is what I was raised with, don't believe it. It's not true. Sensitivity is a gift, really. And I think we've learned to suppress it and deny it and avoid it because, it just doesn't work. Ah, you're back. I was going to take over and talk about my own experiences of sensitivity. So give me yours.
About being highly sensitive, yes. It is a hard, but when you don't realize you're highly sensitive, about 20% of the population are highly sensitive. So it affects men and women the same. It's very kind of clear category, when you're studying personalities, but it just means that we take in more information. So when we're dealing with trauma, it can be very, very difficult because we're taking it even more deeply. But when we're on a healing journey and we have some positive influence, we have a goal to do this healing, to just take charge of our lives and feel better, we're even more responsive to the healing because we're so sensitive. And so it can be difficult, but it also can be your superpower because a lot of us are highly sensitive. And if we can work with it and do our healing work, we have even more gifts and talents at our disposal because we can really think very deeply. We think in broad systems. We process things very, very deeply. We have very kind of profound realizations, that kind of thing. So it's not only just being, oh, I'm so sensitive, you're hurting me emotionally. It's not just about that. But you can really have a very deep and profound depth of processing information. And so it just means your nerves are kind of more open. You're actually physiologically taking in more information.
Yeah. While you were gone, I was saying basically that it's really a power. It really is. And we're taught that it's not good. You're so sensitive. You're just so this and that. And that's just so silly because we are all sensitive and it's important to feel. And being an empath, realizing that, oh, this is not mine, this is theirs, is a superpower also. It's like, oh, okay, so I'm picking up anger right now. What's going on with you? I mean, it's part of being a healer. So, yeah.
So crucial. And you have to separate that, and you have to not only clear other people's energies out of your field, but you also have to really embody your own energy, and not leak your energy out in various ways. Even just worrying about the past or thinking about the future can leak our energy, for example. I mean, there's other ways. So we really have to be in our own energy, and then it's so much easier not only to feel better in life, but to tap into our intuition. Because if everyone else's energies are all around here, you're listening to everybody's energies, listening to everybody's emotions and information, and it's going to be a lot harder to tune into your own intuition. So I actually have a course on that that's free, that can be a free gift for people who are interested. It'll help them tap into their intuition just by clearing their fields if they're an empathic.
So tell us about what you're offering. Tell us how people can reach you and those free things you're offering and anything else you want to tell us about what you do.
Yeah, so the course I mentioned is a free course just on learning to kind of tap into your intuition by clearing out your field, by embodying your own energy field, and start communicating with your body. It's a very good basis to have. And then if you are interested in more, I actually have a course called Talk to Your Cells, and that is the full premium level course on how to communicate with your body to allow it to heal itself. And so there's multiple methods and ways you can try, but there will be something that works for everyone. And so it was kind of the first important work that I brought out because there were so many people needing that. And so I really hope that it will give people the empowerment that I want them to have, because I think when we're empowered, all the other problems can be solved.
Yes. And how do they find this course?
Yeah, so that's just all on my website, Pashyanti.com.
Okay, great. Well, you keep up the good work and reach out to Anna and re-empower yourselves, rewild yourselves. I love that expression. And let's heal the world, definitely. Yeah. I will see everybody on next Wednesday. And feel free to reach out to me if you want to do some deep work as well at perfectlifeawakening.com or roycemorales.com. And I hope everybody is feeling good today. It's a beautiful day, and I'll see you next week. Thank you again, Anna.
Thank you.